Good evening, everyone. Tonight I'm going to do a couple of unboxings. The first thing we have here is an FL-Esports MK870 keyboard. So this keyboard is something I picked up on AliExpress. It was about $60. And the other thing that we're unboxing is a set of EnjoyPBT doubleshot ABS keycaps, and they are the white on black variant. So I'll just give you a little peek at those. So these are EnjoyPBT brand, but the caps themselves are actually not PBT. They are ABS, doubleshot ABS. So first things first, this keyboard is made by FL-Esports. It's not a brand I had really heard much of, but the Kiowa Kale AliExpress store was selling this keyboard. Now this keyboard is a hot swap keyboard. Gosh, I don't even know if it's metal or plastic. I think it's probably plastic, but I think it's probably a plastic case. So it has a USB-C connection, so I like that. Comes with plate mount stabilizers already installed. I got the white version, as you can see here. What else does it come with? Comes with a nice white USB cable, looks like. I got my own cable here, so at the desk, so I'm not going to use that. Now this is a hot swap keyboard, and something I like about this keyboard is that it's got the south-facing LED cutouts it's got the south-facing LEDs on the switches. The orientation of the switches is such that the in-switch LED cutout is to the bottom or south side. And if you'll notice, it's what we call reverse Smd LEDs. And all that means is that the LEDs are surface mounted on the back side of the PCB rather than the top side. So that means that, as you can see here, the LED sits slightly below flush with the PCB. So that means that if you have switches that actually don't even support SMD LEDs, it doesn't matter, because these LEDs sit below the level of the PCB. So bottom line is, this board should accept any kind of Cherry MX switches you can throw at it, and that's the point of this style. You'll notice, before I zoom out, you'll notice that we also have the SMD mount holes for the SMD mount switch pegs. So bottom line, this keyboard should support any Cherry MX compatible switches that you throw at it. Let's focus here. And another interesting thing of note here, it's got these little rubber thingies on the sides. I can only assume that these serve some purpose. I'm guessing maybe they sell a number pad that attaches here to the side. I don't know. Or maybe they're bumpers. I have no idea. Now looking at the back side, it's got feet in case you want more of an angle. These feet are kind of rubbery, and these feet here are kind of rubbery. It's like a rubberized tip. And just listening here, doesn't sound too bad. The back side of it sounds relatively dead acoustically. So this almost sounds like resin to me. This doesn't sound as hollow as I expected it might for a cheap hot swap keyboard. So let's put some switches in it and see how it feels and it sounds. I got these switches I just made. These are some Franken switches I just cobbled together using the C3 Tangerine V2 housing, and the stem is a Durock Everglide stem. So these are like a medium tactile switch, disguised as a linear, I guess. Because originally the C3 Tangerine switches were originally a linear switch, but now what we have here is a tactile. So I think that one went in properly. I'm just going to double check my work here, make sure the pin didn't bend. Okay, yeah. So we probably just have a case, this is probably just a case where the switches fit kind of tightly in the keyboard. And that's probably a good thing for a hot swap keyboard. You probably don't want the switches to fit loosely. Let me turn down the gain just a touch here. I think I'm clipping a little. Testing 1 2 3. Yeah, a little less gain here. Yeah, that's more like it. I don't want to clip when I'm talking. So for now I'm leaving the stabilizers in here, but I do want to take a look at them and see if they look like they're any good. So let's just pull one of them out and take a quick peek at it. I don't know if these stabilizers are decent or if they're going to be rattly. So it looks like they're full of grease from the factory. So actually, knowing that, I think I'm going to leave them alone for now. They're just completely injected with grease. It looks like stuffed with grease. So that's one way to make your stabilizers not rattle. So this does seem like a keyboard where some thought has been put into making it sound decent. As I showed you, I tapped on the bottom of it and it really didn't sound that hollow or tinny for what it is. I was expecting worse. I've got a good feeling about this keyboard, that it might sound decent. Now this, that doesn't sound ideal to me. I think I might in the future take this apart and put a piece of foam between the plate and the PCB, but first I want to see what it sounds like in stock form before I worry about that. But that's one easy thing I can do to deaden it acoustically if it turns out that it needs it. I got a lot of bent pins on these Tangerine switches. I don't know why that is. You know, some switches I buy them and hardly any of the switch pins are bent. You have to be especially careful with these hot swap boards. If your switch pins aren't just right, they go in bent, get folded over. So at this price point, $60 for RGB backlight, south-facing LED, switch orientation, keyboard, comes with the stabilizers pre-lubed, hot swap. Seems kind of like a bargain to me, but we'll see. We'll see. Don't want to be too optimistic here until we give it the old run through the paces. Put it through its paces. See how it sounds. I was initially saying see how it sounds and see how it feels, but how it feels has mostly to do with the switches and the keycaps, and not a heck of a lot to do with the keyboard. So I'll just say we'll see. We want to see how it sounds for the most part. That's the main thing that I want to see. How does it sound? The switches appear to fit tightly in the plate. That's probably a good thing since it's a hot swap keyboard. You want the switches to fit snugly so they don't come out by accident when you're removing your keycaps or something like that. It feels to me like the SMD, the PCB mount switch pegs are probably fitting really tightly in the PCB. That's where the resistance feels like it is to me. not so much the plate. Now both of these items that we're reviewing tonight, both the keyboard and the keycaps, are both sort of bargain variations of mechanical keyboard stuff. The switches are not, but the keyboard is on the low price side of things for this hobby, and the keycaps are doubleshot ABS like GMK, but unlike GMK, they're significantly cheaper while still being thick ABS. And we'll take a look at that and see how they look in a minute here, see if they look good thickness wise. Just got to get these switches in. Almost done. Inserting switches. Now these switches, in case you're wondering, these are C3 Tangerine housings. They've been filmed with KeyBio or KeyBio films, switch films, lubed with Tribosys 3204. The springs have been lubed with spray lube, a spray dielectric grease that I like to use, and the stems have been lubed with 3204, and the stems are Everglide Jade switch stems. So these are a mild tactile, sort of more like a medium tactile, medium intensity tactile feedback. Another bent switch pin here. So I thought it would be fun to do these switches in this keyboard for Halloween, because orange with a green stem kind of looks like a pumpkin, doesn't it? Just a little bit. Alright, now let's move on to the keycaps. So these are them. EnjoyPBT brand ABS double shot keycaps. How to get into these. How to get into this packaging. Bit of a mystery so far. Ah, there we go. There's the top layer. That's actually kind of nice. The trays. Okay, well, let's just take a look here at the thickness of the keycap material on here. One sec. I need something. So these are GMK right here. This is MK870, which you may have heard of, hopefully. Let's see how GMK compares. Let's take a look here. Texture is very similar. Legends are a bit thinner, looks like. Looks like the EnjoyPBT Legends are just a touch thinner. Profile-wise, they look about the same. If anything, the ePBT might be a touch shorter. Let's see. Let me check my aperture here. Oh yeah. Pretty darn close. They look about the same. Now what about the back side of the keycap here? Let's look at the thickness of the plastic. Let me grab my calipers here and take a measurement of the thickness. .6 millimeter it says for the GMK keycap. Now this first edge is 1.08 millimeter only, so it's actually thinner at the very edge. But then there's like a step where it gets thicker, where it's 1.7. So it starts off thinner than the GMK, but then the inner step is thicker than the GMK. So that's interesting. Wonder how that'll sound. Overall, the amount of plastic material seems to be pretty similar. Now the amount of material around the stem is not the same. These look like these would crack easier. If you notice, the diameter of the stem holder of the diameter of the keycap stem for the GMK 5.5 millimeter. For the ePBT, it's only 5.12 millimeters. So these are gonna probably crack more easily if you use them on a fat keycap, like if you use them on like a box switch or something. Now, hang on one second here. Let's see how they compare weight-wise. Let me grab my scale. My accurate scale. Sorry about that, I didn't have my scale handy. So let's see how these compare and how much mass they have. Little scale here. quite read that, can you? There, that's better. 0. So the GMK keycap is 0.941 grams. Let's see the EPBT keycap. 0.941 versus 0.947. So the EnjoyPBT keycap, even though it starts off thinner at the edge, it actually has more mass than the GMK keycap because that inner stepped portion has thicker plastic. So it makes me wonder how they're going to sound in comparison to each other, because the amount of mass is about the same, even though the EnjoyPBT cap starts off thinner and then thickens on that second level, that step portion. So let's stick them on there and see how they sound. Okay, another observation about these keycaps that I want to make is these are a good fit for the Duroc, or sorry, for the Everglide switches, because the Everglide switch stems are kind of on the small side, and some of my keycaps I've noticed they fit loosely to the stem of these switches. These keycaps feel really tight on these stems, even though these are the stems that tend to fit loosely with other keycaps. So if you've got any switches where the stem seems to fit loosely, these keycaps could be a good option to fit more snugly on those switches. It's actually a happy accident. I didn't know that about these keycaps. I didn't know that they fit tighter than GMK, but they do. I would probably not recommend using these keycaps with Kale switch stems because those tend to run on the big side. Same thing with Cherry MX Clear, tend to run on the big side. The stem might actually crack these. I wouldn't risk it. Might be best to stay with Duroc switches or Gateron, which tend to fit not as tightly. Compared to Kale. So here's one of the moments of truth here. First stabilizer. Now that stabilizer is not rattly. The stabilized key sounds pretty good, I have to say. Sounds pretty good for a cheap keyboard. I thought for sure these stabilizers would be junk on a keyboard of this price point. They don't appear to be so far. Maybe that's just because they're full of grease though. We'll have to see with more use if the stabilizers continue to sound good or if they start to sound bad with more use as the grease works its way out of the stabilizers, if that indeed happens. I have to say, these keycaps look pretty sharp. I heard that the legends were a little bit wonky, but I'm not seeing it so far. So far they look crisp and sharp and good. I've often thought that that might be kind of the wave of the future with mechanical keyboards. Maybe the next big thing is maybe plastic keyboards. It's already happened with the machined palm keyboards and machined acrylic keyboards, but maybe that's going to keep going, because I think a lot of people like myself are realizing, hey, a plastic keyboard case has pretty good acoustical properties as long as it's thick enough and has enough material. It's not flimsy, and as long as it's well made, plastic can be a really good material for a keyboard case. And if you're making big enough quantities for the injection molding to make sense, now you're talking about a cheaper product as well. As you can see with this one, 60 bucks on AliExpress. What can you get for $60 in the mechanical keyboard world? In terms of custom keyboards, not a lot. I mean, I don't know if you would call this a custom keyboard. This is more like an OEM thing, but the fact that you can put your own switches in, I think makes it kind of debatable whether it counts as a custom keyboard or not. Yeah, these caps fit really tightly, so if you got any switches that have loosey-goosey stems and you want some keycaps, they're going to really stay on there. I can suggest these for sure. It's interesting because the EnjoyPBT caps that are made out of PBT are also pretty tight fitting. So they seem to have the same, they seem to have that tighter fitting keycap stem seems to have translated over to their ABS line. It makes me wonder if they use the same molds or what, or at least the same tolerances. Alright, I'm excited to do the typing test, so glad we're almost done here. Doesn't sound bad. Sounds pretty good to me. Okay, almost there. I'm going to keep this keyboard strictly business for now. No fun novelties or anything for now. Maybe later. Maybe later I'll change it and put some novelty caps here and there. But for now, just Just the basic Legends. Alright. Now let's run a keyboard tester real quick. See if I messed up any of the switches when I was installing them. Boy, that's so light. It kind of weirds me out how light that is. I like to use a wrist rest. I know you can scold me later. So let's see here. USB. You can kind of see the RGB backlight. It's cycling through the colors. Not super visible because these keycaps. Alexa, turn off the workbench light. So you can kind of see the backlight. It's not super easy to see because the keycaps are not shine through. Alexa, turn on the workbench light. Okay. Let's see if we got any bad keys here. Looks like everything's working. It's got to be the first time I've ever done that with a hot swap keyboard. Had everything work the first try. Okay. Let's do a typing test. Typing test, typing test, typing test. There we go. Let's make this a lot smaller. Oops. All right. sounds pretty good to me. So I think this keyboard is a great value, in my opinion. I think it sounds good. It's cheap. Hard to find a cheaper keyboard. Hot swap takes literally any kind of MX switch you could possibly throw into it. Has RGB backlight if that's important to you. Alexa, turn off the workbench light. See, look. The RGB backlight is a little hard to see because I don't have shine through keycaps, but that's kind of a fun feature. Alexa, turn on the workbench light. So anyway, I think this is a great value. I think this is a good keyboard for the price. I would get it if you're on a budget. And I think these keycaps are nice for the price too. These look great. I heard warnings about the Legends, but the Legends look great to me. They look great, they feel great. ABS, they sound like ABS. I think they sound similar to GMK. Yeah, it's just a nice keyboard. Turned out good. I would be happy to use this at work or at home or whatever. Just seems like a good keyboard for the price. You know, it's no CNC aluminum masterpiece, but for 60 bucks, gosh, I can't really find any complaint with it. Even the stabilizers feel and sound good. No rattle or anything. Just seems like unreasonably good deal for the price. So that's my take on it, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. Comment, like, subscribe, etc. And hopefully we'll see you next time.